All right, let's talk about a technique that can completely change how you sound when you speak English. And this isn't about learning more words, it's about finally mastering the music that goes with them. You ever feel this way? I mean, you've got the grammar down, your vocabulary is pretty solid, but when you actually speak, something just feels a little off. It's such a common frustration for learners, you know? That gap between knowing the language and sounding like you know the language. And you're not imagining it. That gap is totally real. But here's the good news. There's a specific skill you can practice to close that gap for good. And that is exactly what we're going to dive into right now. So, what's this magic tool? Well, it's a technique called shadowing. Let's really get into what it is, and more importantly, why it's so incredibly good at, well, kind of rewiring your brain to speak more naturally and fluently. Okay, so here's the basic idea. You listen to a native speaker and you try to speak right along with them, maybe just a split second behind. You're not just repeating what they say, you're trying to copy everything: the rhythm, where they put the stress, the melody of their voice. You are literally becoming their shadow. And this is a really important distinction to make. Simple repetition, listen and repeat, that's all about getting the words right, accuracy. But shadowing, that's about finding the natural flow. You're not just copying words, you're copying the music and the timing. And that right there is the secret sauce. All right, so how do we actually do this? Well, we can break it down into 3 simple levels or tiers of practice. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. You start with training wheels and then work your way up to full speed. So we kick things off with Tier 1, echo shadowing. This is your foundation. And your goal here is super simple. Just get the timing down. You just want to echo what you hear about a half second later, focusing only on matching the rhythm and hitting the same stressed words they do. So here's how you start. You play a short sentence or 2, and then you echo it back. But the most crucial step here is number 3, compare. Play the original again, and then listen to your echo. Did you match that timing? Did you stress the same words? Do this a couple of times until it starts to feel natural. So listen to this. I'd love to. Thanks for asking. Did you hear that? The energy isn't flat. It's on love, and it's on asking. In Tier 1, that's your only job, to catch that beat. Not just the words, but where the emphasis lands. Okay, moving on to Tier 2. Now we get a little more precise. Instead of a whole sentence, we're going to focus on what linguists call thought groups. These are the natural chunks that native speakers break sentences into. The goal is to nail the melody of each little phrase. So, what you'll do is listen to a sentence, but you'll actually hit pause after the first natural chunk. You shadow just that little piece. Then, play the next chunk, pause, and shadow that one. And finally, you try to string them all together so they flow from one to the next, just like the original speaker. This is a perfect example, right? A native speaker doesn't say this like a robot in one long string. They naturally group it. When you get a chance, could you email the file by tonight? When you practice these chunks one by one, you're training your brain to create them on its own. And that leads us to the final level, Tier 3, real-time shadowing. This is what we're aiming for. You're speaking right along with the recording, continuously trying to stay as close as you can. You're building up the mental and physical stamina you need for a real conversation. But hey, don't just jump into the deep end. You can start slower, maybe at 75% speed, and use a transcript for support. But then, and this is so important, you have to take the training wheels off. Get rid of the transcript, make your ears do all the work. Then you can bump it up to full speed and record yourself to really hear the progress. So, we've talked a lot about how to do this, but let's talk about why it works so well. It's because shadowing is a direct workout for something called prosody. And prosody, well, it's the secret music of English. Prosody is just a fancy word for the rhythm, the stress, the intonation, the ups and downs of speech. If you think of vocabulary and grammar as the lyrics to a song, prosody is the melody and the beat. And just like a song, it doesn't matter if you know all the words. If you get the beat wrong, it just won't sound right. And it's all about these little rules of the music. Things like knowing which word in a sentence gets the main stress to highlight new info. Like saying, I called John. It's about how your voice goes up for a question and down for a statement. And it's how you connect words so they flow together. Shadowing trains all of this at once. Let's take linking, for example. We don't say make it. It just sounds clunky. We say make it. The sounds just blend together. Shadowing basically forces your mouth to practice making these smooth connections over and over until it's just automatic. And it's the same thing with reductions. You probably learned to say want to, but you'll almost always hear wanna. You learned going to, but you'll hear gonna. Now, this isn't lazy or sloppy speech. It's actually more efficient, and it's a huge piece of the puzzle for sounding natural and keeping up in conversations. Okay, so this all probably sounds great, but you might be thinking, how am I supposed to fit this into my life? Well, here's the best part. You don't need hours and hours. Let's look at a simple plan you can start using today. That's it. Seriously, just 10 to 15 minutes a day. That is all it takes. With this, consistency is so much more important than intensity. It's about building a small, daily habit that's going to pay off in a huge way for your fluency. And here's a super simple roadmap for your first week. Spend a couple of days just working on those Tier 1 echoes. Then move on to Tier 2 chunking for a couple of days. By day 5, you can start trying that real-time shadowing, maybe at a slightly slower speed. See? It's a totally manageable step-by-step process. So what's the big takeaway here? You can literally start doing this right now. All you need is a quiet place to practice, a short audio clip that has a transcript, you can find tons of these online, and then you just have to pick which tier you want to start with. And then you just press play. And really, that's the question I want to leave you with. Think about why you're doing this. Is it for a big job interview, a presentation? Or is it just to feel more confident when you're talking to people? What could mastering the music of English for just 10 minutes a day really unlock for you?